live.
We're live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's show with Carina and Dino. This week I've been thinking about, I've had a lot of things come up, like on social media. Of course, that's my new passion, right? And LinkedIn, a lot about, people are looking a lot about focus and focus in business and focus in life. And I realized that, I've got so many projects, like I've got this project and I've started this and I'm that, and it's all little bits and pieces, and there's no focus. So I'm doing a little bit. And then, of course, we've got our awesome, my awesome co-host, right? Dino, who always talks about focus, right? So I'm saying, Dino, let's talk about focus and how you do focus, right? Because you say, well, when I've got something, we've spoken about this a lot in a lot of shows, but we haven't actually spoken about how to do it. So you always say, hey, when you decide to do something, you focus. You just like this focused shark, and you just get it done, and you just create magic. So what are your thoughts about that?
Wow, that's a tough act to live up to, Carina. Actually, this is part of what I'm doing now. Is I'm focused on speaking, and so there's going to be several sessions. The first one kicking off in Chicago, where I actually go through the principles of success, old school principles of success.
Nice.
Sometimes people forget, but. To answer your question today, how does one stay focused? One of the easiest things to stay focused that a lot of times people forget, even I forget, is to do a to-do list. Now, it's, everybody talks about to-do lists, right? But this is kind of different. So what you'll find, and you mentioned social, so let's tap into that a little bit. There are certain posts that resonate emotion in the beginning of the day. There are other posts that are done in the beginning of the day that won't get any traffic, but as the day goes on, or as nighttime comes, it warrants traffic, and because it sparks a different kind of emotion. So some people will start off the morning nervous and depressed and, oh my God, what's the day have for me, right? And as the day unfolds, it gets easier and easier. And by the time it's evening, they're happy.
Yes,
right?
yes.
There are other people that are complete opposites that will start the day, happy. And then by the time the day finishes, all of life's twists and turns sometimes hit them, like a 2x4 right in the head. And so by the end of the day, you have this kind of worrisome feeling, right? This nervous, anxious feeling. I have experienced both. I'm sure I'm not the only one. I think a lot of people experience both ends of the spectrum. So what I used to do, and now I pretty much do it in my head, is I would create a to-do list. It's more, when I do the to-do list, it's more at night. It's more of a wish list, a hopeful list, a positive list. Like, hey, you know what? I'm a little nervous and anxious for tomorrow, but tomorrow's another day. And tomorrow I can just call this person. I could do this. I could call that person. I'll arrange that. I have to face this, different little milestones within somebody's daily schedule.
Yes.
And then when the morning comes, you're automatically focused and targeted on a list that's already been prepared the night before.
Yeah.
And the fun that I used to have with lists like that is that I'd be able to barrel through the list, even if it's, comb your hair. I'm just giving an example, right? But when you accomplish something on that list, you cross it off.
Yes.
And by crossing it off, it kind of gave me immediate gratification. It gave me like a win. Yes. Small or large, a win's a win, savor it for that second or hour or whatever.
yes.
And so the day goes on and your list gets smaller and smaller. Do you accomplish typically 100% of your list? I never did. But if you can accomplish 60% or 70% or 80% of that list, that's a pretty good feeling.
Yes.
Then at night, anything that wasn't accomplished stays on the list for the next day. And to it, you add the next wish list, if you will. And that's what I used to do for years, before I even knew why I was doing it. I mean, that's kind of how I did it, because I was typically a worrywart. I'm one of those, what if I was in that kind of mindset.
Yeah.
And to kind of get those worries away, or at least put them in control, in check, I would come up with this list. Now, everybody does lists. They explain it a different way. I'm just explaining it the way it felt for me.
Yes, I love that. First, I want to say good morning to whoever's here. Sorry, I don't see your name, but good morning and thanks for being here. Just on the side note, what I love about that as well is that if you do it at night, then it's almost like your brain works for you during the night, right? And in the morning, you're fresh and you're more confident for the day because you know where you're going, instead of waking up and thinking, oh, what am I going to do today?
Yeah, you sort of trick your brain. You sort of put it in a hopeful position, right? So when I go to sleep, and this has happened to me, when you go to sleep and you carry all those worries with you and you have knots in your stomach. I mean, I've gone through this. I think everybody, especially in business, has gone through this. It just made me feel better to know that I had a sort of a plan of attack for the next morning. So when I woke up, I worried less about what should I do, because it was already listed for me.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And when you start crossing off things off your list, you start feeling better. It is a mindset. And we talked about this a couple shows ago, where you almost always kind of try to trick your mind. You trick your muscles. Your mind is a muscle. The more you put into it, the more you get out. So if you train it on certain simple tasks, what I found is it's just an amazing thing, your mind. And as time goes on, you don't necessarily, I mean, some people will do this list for the rest of their lives. I do the list. You don't realize it, but I do the list in my head. Although there's been some incredibly stressful times, especially recently. There's so much I'm doing, so much going on, that I found that I resorted back to the list, especially in Chicago. I'm going to Chicago to speak. I got a book signing. I think I have 15 meetings already lined up.
It's crazy.
And it's kind of difficult to know when you're meeting somebody. And why don't you put it in a calendar on your phone? Okay, you're talking to a dinosaur. I could do it, but I don't. So, but this list is just a familiar friend for me, and so I've gone back to it recently, and it feels just as good as it did when I was doing it, starting out in business.
What I also like about that, I take the list a bit further, because me too, my mind just goes who knows where sometimes. And the nice thing for me is that I do a brain dump sometimes. So I just write like journal, and get rid of all this stuff in my head. And sometimes when I put it down on paper, I just looks at it and I'm going like, what are you like? Where does all this come from? So that helps us a lot for me as well.
Do you ever write a letter and then throw it away?
Burn it, yes. Oh, many times.
Yeah. It's kind of a cleansing. It's self-cleansing, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, sometimes, you've got things in your head, or there's something that's happening within something, and then you write that letter, write. Also, you have to do it uncensored, which sometimes, and then burn it. It's amazing how freeing that. Yes, you release it.
Yeah, I've just thrown them out. I suppose burning is an extra step of closure.
Yes.
I'll have to try that one sometime, but I haven't burned one. But yeah, I mean, you're the cobwebs in your head. I mean, you got to keep a clean space up there, and it's really difficult. Look, this is maintenance, just like anything else that we do in life. Take the right vitamins, avoid fatty foods, avoid the fried foods, take walks, exercise. Everybody's got a quick gimmick on how to look good. Everybody's got their own way of showing you how they work out. And we don't really question those things, do we? Except when it comes to your brain. When it comes to your brain, people are just like, oh, you know what I mean? Reading is one way to exercise. Going and getting one of those apps, that brain tester app and all these things, that's exercise. Crossword puzzles, that's exercise. But these are simple things that are tried and true for programming your brain, right? I like to go to bed worry free as much as possible.
Yes.
Really, I mean, I've gotten to the point where what are you worried about? You know what I mean? I mean, moments feel like the end, and they never are. You know that. But when you're going through it, it certainly feels like the end. I don't like that feeling. Okay, nobody does. And for me, tricking my mind under the premise, tomorrow's a brand new day. Tomorrow's a fresh start. All the things that are kind of inherently programmed in our brain. It kind of gives me that sense of comfort that tomorrow I have an agenda. It's packed full, and I'm going to run through the list. Sometimes it'll take me all day to get through the list. Sometimes I could finish an entire list in 10 minutes and be like, wow, that was easy. But the night before, it seems like a daunting task, doesn't it? I mean, it seems like, oh my God. And it could be just as simple as wanting to speak to somebody about an opportunity or, whatever it is. And you just don't feel it's the right time to talk to them. It's not the right mood you're in. And you always table it and you table it till the right time. Those are the ones for sure you keep carrying on your list, because there's going to come a time where you feel invincible, and that's the time you better stop what you're doing, pick up the phone, or go meet this person face to face and just do it.
Yeah.
Otherwise it just stays on your list, constantly. A lot of little tricks.
Yes, and the problem with that is that then that call gets harder and harder and harder to do because the stories in your mind get more and more and more. So that's quite funny as well. Until it becomes like, and then it also weighs on you. I remember we were talking a lot about the garbage in your head, right?
Uh-huh.
And that's what happens as well, because that call becomes bigger and bigger. Well, for me, I'm talking for me, it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Well, it becomes bigger and bigger because of the what ifs. Look, in business or in life, I'll just talk about business. There's something to be said about sitting in front of somebody, right?
Yeah.
When I was looking for investors, or when I was looking for, not really a raise, but an opportunity, I would never do it over the phone. I would do it face to face. There are certain, and I go through this in my talks. There are certain gestures that you can't see over the phone. You can't feel over the phone. Mm-hmm. There's certain buying signals, and of course, there's kind of the standoffish. Those things you can't see over the phone. I prefer to do my business face to face whenever possible. And I talk about this. I have these little clips and, tip of the day. There's just something about that kind of, better when the right time is. But if you don't have those, if you don't have the advantage of that, it's your mood. Your mood is going to change maybe thousands of times during a single day. And that good centered feeling when you get it, when it is. I suggest that people are aware of it and just use that. When it's showtime, if you got something to say it, and when you don't feel it, the worst thing that you can do is try and say it, because 9 times out of 10, it'll come out wrong. And I'm a firm believer that most of the things we do in life are hinged on emotion.
Yes.
It's the connection. It's not logic. And so logically, you could pick up the phone at any given time of the day and say what you have to say, and you'll get a logical result, right? But emotionally, there are certain times where you pick up the phone and you're going to get that emotional connection, and you're going to get that emotional response where you're like, man, I nailed this.
Yes.
And right?
Yes. Yes.
So if people who have known me in business, towards the end, I'll say, not during my peak performance, but towards the end, when I was saddled so much with addiction and demons and stuff like that, I knew still, even then, I knew exactly when to entertain a call or a meeting. And I knew when, you don't look really good, or you're not sounding good, or you're almost to the point of slurring your speech. You better lay off. And I'm telling you this because this is real stuff.
Yeah.
It's ugly stuff, but as ugly as it is, I just want the whoever watches this to understand that even at that lowest point in my life, I still understood my body language. I still understood when it was showtime.
And that's why it's so important to be self-aware. So you've got to be aware of the way, like, and to be able to be self-aware already, or even in those drunken states, it's pretty good. I mean, you really know yourself, because then you know when to play and when to work. I mean, when to connect with someone, because you were talking about logic, but I think you have to connect on an emotional level. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you don't get what you need to do. And of course, face-to-face is awesome. But now in this crazy open world that we've got, you can't do face-to-face with everybody, right? Maybe you're speaking to someone across the world, or so you have to suppose. But it is different. It's very different.
It is different. But you learn it. I'm a fossil in many ways. I'm a dinosaur in many ways. And that's a good thing, by the way. But in the ways that it's not a good thing, like this Zoom call, you have to adjust. You have to kind of feel your surroundings. So if this is one of the new mediums that I have to be on and I have to entertain, then I'm going to get good at it. So I can become just as perceptive on a Zoom call as I can face-to-face. I enjoy the ritual of face-to-face. Let's put it that way. I enjoy the meeting. I enjoy the handshake. I enjoy the small talk. I enjoy most of all the connection, the eye connection. Yeah, I could see your eyes, through the Zoom. But, you got to look really closely. And, again, I have to have reading glasses. I'm as blind as a bat, and still I can't really see. So, I mean, look, you have to adjust to the world around you. I mean, your world is changing. The way you communicate with others is changing. One thing that won't change, though, is, again, that focus, the preparation of a list the prior night, and the execution of the list that morning, starting that morning. Crossing off your list is basically giving yourself gratification on little hurdles throughout the day. Those are wins that we should savor. And if things, let's say by chance don't go your way, or there's some kind of catastrophe that happens, there's a big, get another piece of paper and start writing down what you could do. Not everything needs to be an immediate cause and effect, right? Sometimes the most powerful comebacks are the ones where you don't respond right away. Like if you get punched, your instinct is to punch back, but you got to think of everything. Almost, it's very interesting if you really, look at it that way, but it's almost, you have to understand what the goal is. If the goal is for me to sell you, even if you say something to me insulting, it's not necessarily wise for me to insult you back. It's probably wise to quickly end the call, assess the situation, figure out, are you worth selling now that you've done this? Or was it something in your day? Was it your mood? Was it something you heard? Who knows? Those things can't be uncovered if I punch you back. They can only be uncovered if you just stay in the pocket. This is a sports terminology, but I say this a lot. Stay in the pocket and you'll see who's open. That's football, right? It's the same thing in business. Stay in the pocket, because sometimes the person right in front of you isn't the one you should be worried about. It could be, a clearing later on, or a place where you can't throw, and then you have to just adjust your game. So it's this constant movement. Life is fluid. Business is fluid. Your moods are fluid. Everything always changes. The more we have in our toolbox to address focus, the better we get at this, because we get used to foreign situations. And if you get used to enough foreign situations, then you have life's playbook in your mind. You're like, oh, I'm feeling this way. Oh, I remember this. Remember, it happened last time, and here's what I did. I mean, you have all these stored memories that you can recall to help you through your day, to help you through your life, right?
Now, I'm liking the idea of creating this list at the end of the day. It gives you focus and all that. What happens when you wake up in the morning and you think, oh no, I know I've got this list to do, but hey, it's so nice in bed. I'd rather stay in bed. How do you motivate yourself to get out of bed and to actually start doing what you have to do?
Well, eventually that not getting out of bed is going to go on my list. I can't tell you in the length of a podcast how to motivate yourself not to be in bed. I mean, you're going to stay in bed, you're going to stay in bed, right? But by staying in bed, there's all sorts of consequences if you rely on X, Y, Z to get you through. People need to live. People need to pay their bills. People need to work.
Yes.
If it's not financial, it could be something else. People have grandkids. People have childcare. People have commitments. If it's not that, it's yourself. Why am I in bed? Why don't I feel like getting up? And it could get a little more deep in those things. Look, it's not bad to stay in bed a day. It's not bad to have a TV day. I mean, it's quite fun if you think about it. But I don't think that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the person that's just like, you know what? I know I have this list. You train yourself. If you're going to follow the list method, my opinion is you make that list like your Bible. That's your Bible. That's your religion. That's what you wake up to. It's there for a reason, and you follow it. Otherwise, it's like somebody giving you a roadmap to life, saying you're here, and all you got to do is just go right here and be successful. And you're like, yeah, I know that's a cool road, but it just looks really hard today.
Yes, of course.
Your choice. But then don't complain. Oh, I wish I had that kind of life. I wish I had that kind of money. I wish I had that kind of praise. All the things that obviously you want. And it's your choice at the end of the day,
I just wanted to see what you would say about that. That was because it is what it is. And that's the beauty of life, is about choice, right? So we've always got a choice. So you've got a choice to be focused, to follow your path or whatever, to follow your list or not to, or to just stay in bed or watch TV or whatever it is. At the end of the day, it's your life and you create it the way you want it, right?
Yeah. Just while you were talking, I was just thinking of a quote, and it's maybe not related, maybe somewhat, but It's from, I've gone through this like old philosopher kick, right? People that have been around, 20 AD, 64 AD. I mean,
Yeah.
okay. And it's kind of funny that some of the comments that they made that they are famous for are success quotes in a lot of classes, workshops, seminars today. I mean, nothing's really changed. The
No.
one that really strikes me kind of cool is a quote by Seneca. And he says, "You act like mortals in all that you fear, and immortals in all that you desire." On its
Nice.
face, kind of a complicated little statement, but if you really think about it, everything that we desire in life, like I wish I had that car, I wish I had that house, I wish I had this much money, I wish I had that boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever your desire is, we act immortal, don't we?
Yes.
We don't think
Yes.
about the hot coals that we have to walk over to get to our desired end, right? We just do it. We find a way to do it. Maybe there's a path that's not as hot. Maybe I have to just run through the hot coals. I mean, your mind just starts figuring, I want to get there. I'm here. I'll figure out a way because I want it. That's
Yes.
emotion.
Yes. Yes.
But we act like mortals in all that we fear. Okay? And I'm not trying to be blasphemous, but there's a hurricane on the coast that's coming up our way, right?
Yes. Yes.
And you hear a lot of times thoughts and prayers, hearts and minds. My heart goes out to you. The ceremonial things. X amount of ribbons were tied to a tree. X amount of bells were rung. All these ceremonial things, this pomp and circumstance things. We're afraid.
Yes.
And it's funny that when we're afraid, we pray more. It's funny. We pray for safety. We pray for peace. We pray for all the things that we're afraid of. But when you're going after something you desire, very few people I've found will say, thank God, or thank, whatever, thank the whatever you believe in. For those moments.
Yes.
It's kind of funny.
Yes.
So it should be backwards, that statement, in my opinion. We should act immortal in the things that we fear. That's how I acted in business, immortal. I didn't care if I ran into a brick wall. I didn't care. I mean, it hurts. Don't get me wrong. Don't try this at home if you have thick skin. But I wasn't well-read. I wasn't a scholar. I didn't have a degree. I had nothing except the desire and old school wisdom that I acquired from the people that I hung out with. I didn't just hang out with them, okay? I consumed them. That's the best description I can give you. I consumed them. So these lists, believe it or not, all my mentors had lists. Why is he doing that? Why is she doing that? And I would ask. So, I have all this acquired knowledge. As far as a scholar or somebody who's carrying a degree, I'm nothing. I mean, I was just the biggest idiot around. But I learned on the street. I learned from mentors. I learned from, in my opinion, old school best of the best.
Yes.
And
Yes.
all
Yes.
had that fearless thing for the unknown. They all had that arrogance. They all had that confidence. They all had the same traits that I just found so irresistible. And so I attacked the things that feared me as immortal. The things that I desired almost always came, but funny story. The things that I desired actually scared me more than the unknown. Because when I get them, I didn't know what to do with them. It's like, careful what you wish for. And you know, I've wished a lot of things, right? And when I get them, I've been lucky enough to get a lot of what I wish for. When I get them, it's just like, oh, wow, what do I do with
Now what?
Well, because that part was new to me. That part I didn't know how to handle. You know what I mean? You know, there's a whole set of pressures that come with that. But for today's conversation with focus, you know, let's add in on focus is maybe looking at it fearlessly. And I find that the best time that I would feel fearless is somebody with a good night's sleep who wakes up in the morning with a pre-programmed to-do list already in front of me, so there's no thought involved, and you attack it fearlessly.
Yes.
At the end of the day, you get bruised and bloodied and you get kicked around. That's life. It changes all the time. And, you know, you count your battle scars. Well, look, today I did this much out of this. Not bad. Not bad. Here's what I didn't do. All right, let's carry that over. And you know what? Here's what I should do. Let me add that to it. So your list gets better and better and better. And I would attack that list fearlessly every morning.
And it's also that great mindset, because a lot of people just stop in fear again. I mean, this is Break Fear Find Freedom, right?
Yeah.
They get so immobilized by the fear that they don't do it. So I like the idea of having the list. Then you've got no thought involved, and you just jump in and you do what you have to do.
Yeah, because if you don't have a list, you'll start writing your list based on your mood that morning. And usually if you don't have a direction in the morning, remember I said there's two types of people. So this is for the type that I'm describing right now, including me. If you don't have that targeted direction in the morning, you're prone to invite worry and fear into your morning because what am I doing today? You don't have a set plan, so right away you go into panic mode, fear mode.
Yes.
A lot of times fear for me would actually paralyze me. Not literally, but I'd be paralyzed by fear, meaning I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to move. I didn't want to take a shower for fear of missing a phone call. You don't want to do anything, but you want to do everything, and you don't realize you're just kind of in this holding pattern, self-imposed holding pattern, by the way. So for me, it was much better to have that list already made so that there's no thought involved into what am I doing today? You know what you have to do today. You're either going to cross off a lot of your list, all of your list, or some of your list, or none of your list. Those are the choices. But there's your list. You want to stay in bed today? Carry the list, put it for the next day. But there's still a list facing you straight in the face that you eventually have to attack.
And that's a good thing as well, because it reminds you, like, okay, I'm here. It calls you. I'm here. What are you going to do about it?
You could do the same thing on your phone, and you could get notifications and bells and all that stuff. I just find it fun to grab a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil and just like have a marked up hand and stuff and just hand do it. Physical action stimulates mental acceptance. That's why you write and then crumple it up and burn it. That's why I would write some stuff and then throw it in the garbage. It's that mental acceptance that I find is much more powerful than doing it on a keyboard or doing it on your phone. It's got to be different.
Yes.
It's got to feel different. For some reason, you get so accustomed to your phone. What do you do on your phone? You talk on your phone. You look at your emails on your phone. All the social stuff is on your phone. So you're always on this phone. You're used to it. You're not used to a piece of paper anymore. Or a pen. What does that feel like? Oh, wow, a pen. And these are archaic things that, believe it or not, still work today.
Yes.
And I think we've gone so far into the technological age that we've forgotten the OG methods, the old school methods, the stuff that existed before we had phones. How did people interact before phones? I don't know. Did they interact? Did they ever interact? Well, I've been proving my philosopher kick all last week, and I still have a whole bunch of them, but I didn't want to bore my fans. They're saying stuff at 20 AD and 64 AD that still apply today. How did they get along? How did they have senates and tribunals? And how did they have cities and all the things back then? That was really old school. They didn't have computers. They didn't say, oh my God, we can't have Senate because we don't have Wi-Fi. My Wi-Fi's down. They still survived. So these are old school methods that are proven and will be for eternity. The world has changed, but the principles of success are still the same.
Yes.
And they always will.
Of course.
It doesn't matter what the medium is, if it's a computer digitized thing, if you're doing it through Zoom, if you're doing it face-to-face, if you're doing it on your phone, it's still the same stuff. It's just sometimes now with the modern stuff, they put a twist on it.
Yeah,
that's all.
It's exactly the same. But I find I'm going to go back to your pen and paper. I find that somehow it just links and my creativity flows better when I'm writing, with as opposed to typing. It's a whole different. It just stimulates a different part of your brain, right? And the creativity flows much easier for me.
Well, it's an artistic side too. And, can they do art on computers? I've seen wonderful digitized art. Yeah. And I'm sure it's very therapeutic and very artistic and very creative. That's good. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying that, again, before these digitized pieces of art, they still painted or sculpted with their hands. Again, it's there's something to be said about just physical action, stimulating your brain any way you can. So take that to the bank. That's gospel. So one of the physical actions to stimulate mental acceptance is that list. I'm always going to keep going to it today because, again, this is just that question. But try it. Try that list. It's very, very powerful. And it's very efficient. Very efficient.
Yes. Well, try it for a few days. That's a challenge, and tell us how it worked for you.
Try it for a week, because if you start on Sunday, because Monday's a work day, let's just assume everybody watching is working, right? You do it Sunday night for Monday. Then let's see what you accomplished Monday. Then anything you didn't, plus what you want to do the next day, is what I call the rollover for Tuesday. And on and on and on and on. You'll see what you've accomplished from Sunday night till Friday night. And it'll be remarkably efficient. You may have the same thing lingering from Sunday all the way through Friday. You may still have an unfinished piece, but for the most part, you're going to find that you're going to be knocking out a huge percentage of your wish list every day if you give it 5 days. You won't really feel it in 1 or 2 days. I don't think. You'll start noticing your accomplishments within the span of a week, because there's always carryover, right?
Yeah.
You may get a false sense just in 2 days. Oh, wow, there's too much carried over. This list sucks.
Right.
If you give it 5 days, I think you're going to start seeing what I'm talking about.
The interesting thing now, as you were saying, I was thinking about when you get to Friday and you've noticed you've carried something from Sunday, it'll be interesting. It's very therapeutic almost to check it out and see, why have you carried that? Why are you procrastinating on that thing? Why are you carrying it over? Like that could be a good place to see what's going on with yourself, or maybe it's not, maybe you don't even need to do it anymore, or whatever it is.
Maybe. I mean, you're bringing up a whole new set of stuff, but simply the thing that's still on your list, there's infinite reasons, right? One passable reason is whoever you're meeting or talking to, let's say, is not in town. There's a death in the family. They got sick. I mean, you name it, But usually the stuff that would be left on my list, for me, I found that they were the most uncomfortable ones.
Yes.
The ones that I didn't. So combing your hair, I guarantee you that one, that's crossed off every morning for sure. Okay, that's an easy one. But talking to somebody about, let's just say you owe them money. Talking to somebody about how you can't pay them back and you need to have more time or you need to work out an arrangement. That's something that's very uncomfortable. It's happened to me many times in my life.
Yeah, yeah.
In the early days, I found that was the one that gets carried over and over and over and over. And the worst thing is that you carry it over so long that they call you before you call them. I hated that. But over time, here's a cool thing. Over time, I learned to address and attack the hardest things on my list first. Why? Because if you got rid of that one difficult thing that you're dreading to do first, you feel like bending steel the rest of your day. Liz, what? This stuff's easy. Oh my God, who's next?
Yes,
It's an invincible feeling. So I always started attacking the most difficult tasks first. Similar to what people say now. You want the good news or the bad news? Some people say, oh, just give me the good news. I say, give me the bad news. Because I want to know first. Good news,
It is,
right?
Yes.
Well, the bad news. Look at it. You're a problem solver. You need to solve problems. You need to participate in solving the problem, figuring out the issue, as they call it now. Or to be perfectly candid with people, what they call a challenge now, because problem is just too, they're all the same thing. They all mean the same thing, right? Attack it first.
Yes.
After you start mastering this list technique, attack that first. And you're going to find that the rest of your list gets done faster and better.
Yes. 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 And you get more done as well, because you've taken the big thing off your shoulders almost.
So what you don't realize, and again, I cover this stuff, but what you don't realize is when you attack the hardest thing first, remember we talked about that mindset. When you're in that frame of mind, you're ready to take that call, you're ready to take that meeting, you're ready to say that thing.
Yeah.
If you attack the toughest thing first on your list, you're also now automatically put in that mindset where it's showtime. Let's bring it. All problems for the week. Come on, let's go. Because I'm ready right now, and you get yourself jacked up,
Yes.
And it's not an act, it's a feeling. Remember, a feeling changes everything in your mood, right? You could change your mood in the snap of a finger. These are some of the ways, simple ways to start, I'm not going to say trick your brain, but programming your brain, just like any other muscle that we exercise. Notice I didn't do a crossword puzzle, and notice I didn't tell you to go download Brain Buster as an app, or, all these things that people do. These are simple things. You're playing with your own mind. You're your own opponent.
And that's the fun part.
Yeah. So, I mean, I need somebody to play with. You don't need anybody else. You just yourself. You're playing with yourself, your inner self and your outer self. And it's kind of fun. It's kind of cool. It's incredibly simple. A lot of people are like, Dino, are you kidding? This is what you're talking about? Try it. Try it.
Yes.
It works. It works. It worked for me. So I know it works. Will it work on everybody? I don't know. I'm not going to give you statistics. I don't know. But this is what I've carried through my entire business career.
And you won't know if it works for you or it doesn't unless you try it, right? So try it out and see if it works. And sometimes you can change it for your own, to suit yourself anyway, but at least try it.
Yeah. And if anything, you just get your mood right. You know what I mean? So there's a lot to be said about that. Get your mind right. Some people will do meditation and that works for them. But meditation is the same thing. You're clearing your mind. Some people will pray. I encourage that too. You clear your mind. After all that's done, you're left with yourself, right? And you still have to do a to-do list. You still have to attack the day. And attacking the day most efficiently is important. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So you could be so efficient that you'll still have time left in the day. And then you can be lazy. You could go to the beach. You could, whatever. Or you can add more onto your plate. But these are little tricks that will change your mood. There's a lot of people in my Facebook world, which is a very small world, but there's a lot of people in my Facebook world where I can tell their mood just by their post. I'm not trying to freak anybody out, but I can definitely tell their mood just by their post.
Yes.
And I'm happy that a lot of people that I know, they're posting some really cool, positive things lately. And you guys know who you are. There are others that you could just tell by their post. Wow, there's something going on here, right? And so that's the whole thing. So it usually starts in the morning. If I post something positive and peppy and jumpy and stuff first thing in the morning, people appreciate it. If I post something profound in the morning, people will appreciate it at the end of the day. It's just really just mastering patterns, just seeing patterns. You know what I mean? So somebody who posts something like that, a profound statement that doesn't get the reaction right away, they may be discouraged to take it down or never post something like that again.
Yeah.
Stay in the pocket. Give it time. And then throughout the day, you start saying, this had as many likes by day's end as this one had. I just got faster likes here, but throughout the day on this post, I got the same amount of likes. Mm-hmm. So stay in the pocket. Very, very important. I know we got off a little bit of the subject on being focused, but part of being focused is understanding and being aware of who you're dealing with, right?
Yeah.
People,
reactions,
emotions.
Yes.
So including your own. So one way to do that is just to be a master of your universe. Understand the people that are your friends, if we're going to talk about social stuff, right? But if we're in person, understand who your audience is. Understand who your affiliates are. Understand who your associates are.
That's important.
You can't be oblivious. You have to kind of assess what's going on, right? That comes from being focused. That comes from understanding things, being in the right mindset, being in the right zone, if you call it. And that starts with a simple, stupid list every morning.
I don't think it's stupid, but you're right. And the only way you're going to know how to react or how your people are reacting is by being focused and by connecting with them.
Right.
So I like that, yes. And by watching.
So let's just say that part of my list was kill it on Carina's podcast. Okay? I'm feeling like I'm going to kill it. We do the podcast, unrehearsed, by the way.
Yes, always.
And the podcast is over. I could have done something better. I shouldn't have went down this way. I shouldn't have said this that way. Put it on your list. Still the same thing, right?
Yes.
So your wish list is at the end of the day, after you've stayed in the pocket and assessed everything, how it moved, how it reacted, what it did. That's your wish list for tomorrow. The execution is in the morning.
Yes.
Wishing is at night. Do you understand?
Yes. Yes, that makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense, because then as well, then you calmer to go to sleep, and you sleep better, and in the morning you're motivated to get up and do what
Most important, instead of just saying you sleep better, at least for me, it was I sleep hopeful. That's a pretty bold statement, but I live on hope. I mean, I have to have that. People that don't have that anymore. I mean, that's what I'm all about these days. But you sleep hopeful that tomorrow's going to be a better day, that tomorrow I'll be more efficient, tomorrow I'll be happier and stuff. That's hope.
Yes.
You have to have hope.
Yes.
So to sleep knowing that's sleeping hopeful, right? Very important. People don't realize how important that is till you start trying it.
Yes, yes. Again, you have to try it. And then with that, as again, you wake up in the morning feeling hopeful, motivated to do whatever you have to do, as opposed to saying, you know what, I don't want to be awake. I don't want to be alive. I don't want to be here.
All of the above. Yeah. It's a tricky situation. I am proud to say I've gone through it, just like I'm sure millions and millions and millions of us have.
Yeah, many times.
Yeah, and in some sense, I'm very fortunate that because of early mentoring, I've learned how to deep dive in my mind.
Yeah.
I'm a little more curious. Let's just put it that way. But by being curious, you get to know yourself too. You get to uncover parts that most people don't want to disturb. If it's not broken, don't fix it. I'm like, you know what? But shake it up a little bit and all these cool things happen. Yeah, there's discomfort in the methods that I teach, okay? But these are people that come to me saying, here's my wish list. I want this. I want that. I want that. I'm like, okay, that's fine. The sky's the limit. I'm the town crier for there are no limits. Life without limits, remember?
Right.
So I'm not going to sit there and say, well, that's not going to work. No, but what people need is not just that hope, what I want, not that list of desires. How do you get there?
Yes, that's important.
Well, there's a road. There's infinite roads. But while all those roads are happening, it's also your state of mind. Some days you'll feel like running. Some days you'll feel like walking. Some days you'll feel like crawling. Some days you'll want to go backwards. So it's your mind is one set of stuff you got to kind of figure out. And then the roads, that's a whole other thing. It's not the same, guys. It's not the same. So, you know how they say dress for success or, act like a millionaire before you are. These are kind of quirky things. But as quirky as they are, what are they really saying? They're saying your state of mind. Feel the part and you'll become the part. Believe you can and you will.
Yes. Yes.
All goes back to that list.
And your state of mind. Because you have to keep into that belief. You have to make sure that you keep that belief all the time. And you've got to keep it up. So you've got to remind yourself of certain things. Because it's easy to just fall into.
That's why every night I write my list of hope. To keep my hope alive. Every night is a hopeful message. Every morning is the execution. The quest, as you will, if you will. And it just makes it really super easy for me. It may not work for other people. I don't know, but try it. Like I said,
Try
try
it.
it for a week, see what happens. And curious to see what people think.
And let us know. Let us know what you think, right?
Mhm.
So on that note, well, one last thing, Dino, besides that you can give someone hope for today. What do you think? One last thought before we close it up.
Just try that list. I mean, there's no extra. I mean, obviously everybody wants that one liner to feel, oh wow, I could tackle the word. Try that list. I don't want to overcomplicate it, but try the list and you'll be amazed at the results.
Well, thank you. So try the list and tell us in the group how it works. And then we'll take it from there. So before I go, I'd just like to say that next week's a special week because next week's a special week. So check it out, and I'll put posts in the group and teasers, and you'll see why next week's a very special week. And I just want to say, Dino, safe travels and enjoy your son's wedding.
Yeah, thanks. I got to get out of here before the hurricane starts. So I'll see you guys later. It was great being on the show, and have a good week, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Have an awesome week.